Hello and welcome back to Blue Crescent Tarot. My name is Deanne and today I am showing you, finally, the deck that was commissioned and created just for me. One of my very best friends, Lauren, had this deck created for me by a mutual friend of ours whose name is Jen Miller. At the time that she created this deck, her last name was Medler, and I will have all of her information for her website and her art and everything like that I will include in the description of this video, of course. Some of you who have been around for a while have seen a couple little flashes of this deck before, but today this is special because I've finally put it in an order that sort of makes sense to me as a way that I might structure and continue to use this deck. I have used this throughout the time that I've received it, which was maybe 5 or 6 years ago now. No, it was before that. Probably 7 or 8 years ago. I will have to look it up and maybe include that information later in the description as well. So another note is at the time that I'm recording this, I've been on a hiatus from YouTube because I'm not really able to be really involved in social media right now, and appearing on screen and things like that is just maybe not in my best interest. That's just a note for the record. Today is June 20th, 2022, and so by the time you see this, it may be another couple months from now, actually. But I digress. So what I've done today is put this in an order that that I think might be my setup and my structure for using this as I go out into the future. As I've said, I've done readings for this for the artist and for myself. I think I've done a couple client readings with it, maybe just one though. I think primarily this has been a personal use deck for me. Going forward, I think I will be able to use it for other people as well, now that I have this, again, kind of set up in the way that I think that I might conceptualize it, or that I might have it structured. The artist also, she's the creator and artist. She meditated, prayed, had like chakra clearing and things like that. She actually created this during a spiritual awakening of her own. I do have some notes from her that she included on cards that, a note that she wrote to me and like explaining her process. I might go through some of this, but for now, I do think I've read a little bit of it before on a live, but for now, I won't read the entire thing. I might want to talk to her first before I do that. But basically, her notes do indicate an order in which she created the cards, and gave a couple little notes about the two cards that she redid. The rest of the cards were a one and done. She did redo the Memento Mori card and the Life card. So there's a little teaser for you. But basically what I want to do today is go through and show you this deck. So I do also have to mention that my dear friend Chris at Elemental Cartomancy has requested this video several times, and he's been very patient as I kind of go through different phases and get my life together, and now I'm finally here to show this in, again, in an order that I think, makes sense to be able to share it. So, what else do I want to say? Basically, this is not a standard tarot deck. It was created, I believe the artist, the creator, Jen, I think she did have some working knowledge of the tarot, but this is definitely not a copy. You'll see that we're looking at the Fool here, but this was really her own creation in manifesting and setting intentions and praying about me and about my friend Lauren, who also, I should mention, is one of my twin flames in this life. So we've had regression work done independently of each other, that links back to the other person. We've received several confirmations of that concept throughout our time together here in the earth plane. So that is where this all stemmed from. And I think that's important to know kind of the direction of the deck. And Jen, the creator and artist, also put in her notes that she was really, that this happened during a Libra moon. And I am a Libra sun and she is as well. And so this was really, so she used that Libra moon energy to kind of guide her and set her intentions in making this as well. And so she talks about the reason why we see, you know, several moon references and things like that. So I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and show this. I have a very low light in here today. I turned off the overhead lights because they were creating terrible like spotlights on the table. And so I just have the curtains open and it's cloudy out and I have a candle lit over here, but I'm just going to try to show you and use this natural light because I think that will serve the cards better. So let's just kind of go through and see what we have. One last note before we start. I am going to start recording because even though I can't be on screen right now or publishing things to YouTube really, once I do, I will have kind of a new thing I'm doing, which I'm calling a talk through. So instead of a walkthrough of a deck, this will be a talk through, and I will do this for several of the other decks in my collection. Okay, really now we're going. So we have the Fool. You'll see that these cards that I'm holding right now are the original hand-painted version. And so I don't know how much you can see, but this is like all, you know, it's textured and not a flat card. I will be scanning these at some point and making a laminated copy. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this painted copy just as it is right now or if I'm going to coat it with something or possibly laminate this version. I don't really know. So if you have ideas about that, please let me know. I store them. There's some marks pulled off the back of the original paint. When I originally had them, I just had them stacked like this and they got humid in my old house and they stuck together a bit. And so I've been keeping them now with like a sheet of paper towel in between, but I'm in a drier room. And so you might be thinking, well, the paper towel is going to stick to that. So far it hasn't. This is original pulling from when they were just stacked together like this. So that's another problem solving thing I need to do. But for now, I have these amazing hand painted cards and they're just incredible. So we have the Fool here. And this one you can kind of see, you know, like the Jester's hat. Some of the cards I would say are more abstract than this. Some you can see kind of more of a form or a person, and some are not that way. So we'll kind of talk about that as we go through. So the Fool, and then the back of this card is purple with the gold. So you'll see that the backs all have this gold. There's actually a video, a little quick video of her putting, I don't know what the things are called, maybe a die cut, right? Like she puts, she created this design and then she slides this thing over and then it leaves the paint. And I don't really know what that's called or what that process is. Anyway, I will try to find information to that and possibly even clip that little video and include it in the description possibly. Anyway, so there's the back. They're all different colors except one is left white because it has some words on the back. We'll talk about that when we get there. I'm just laughing at my rambling. Thanks for hanging out. So here we have the Fool. And the Magician. In the back. High Priestess. And you will notice that this actually has a spelling error on it, which I love because, again, this is a magical original thing. And I love things that have, you know, some of the historical decks with, or even modern decks that have a misprint or a typo, and then in later editions that is corrected. Anyway, I just think it's cool that I have I have one of those little kind of Easter eggs in my very own deck. So here again, you can kind of see like the face and the hair, and then the rest of it, you know, kind of falls away to abstraction, which I love. Like this might be a sword or a wing or who knows what. I just love getting lost in these images. The Empress. And again, you can kind of see a figure seated here. Here is pretty clearly a sword, so I like that kind of calls to the traditional Empress with her shield. That might be a shield here, I'm not sure, but I like that that gives me that warrior vibe, because the Empress is not just quote unquote the nurturing energy, but also protector, which I guess falls into nurturing in some ways. We also have up here a bit of this gold that we see on crowned figures later, and so I like that as well. But you'll see this sort of spring green color and these red, you know, flowers or fruit or whatever this might be. You'll see this come up in sort of related cards later. So I really love how they tie together. And sort of this dark blue on the back. The Emperor, we have what I'm, might even just be, you know, a blackbird or a crow. What I really love here is this apple. It looks a bit like, you know, I could see like the throne and someone seated there, but there's really not any figure, any human figure that I see. You know, I see this bird as the main figure, and then this apple, which is just beautiful. And so you'll see that there's no Hierophant or High Priest in this deck. This is sort of combined here in this energy for me because we have the Emperor title, but then this apple makes me think Hierophant. And so I just really love this. Then we have the Lovers. Now I did put these in order in terms of the regular majors. There are other cards in this deck which I consider to be like a second major arcana, and I will, you know, of course show you that. But for now, I'm just showing you in order what's, you know, what's available in this deck as the regular majors go. The Lovers seems to be a heart with the crossed swords and a couple of bands or ribbons kind of tying these things together. This comes up in a theme later in a couple of the other cards as well. The Chariot. This might be maybe the first one that seems really, like I kind of see a bird here, and I get motion from this and a bit of chaos. It seems possibly there's like a face in here. The light is actually working out pretty well. But again, I don't know if that's just something I'm seeing or if that's intentional, and I love that. But I do kind of see like a face, maybe arms or wings here, like a person in a dress, and then this bird. The Wheel of Fortune with the compass. I see an eye up here. Just things that are, you know, and it seems to be like the elements, earth, water, fire, air, just based on the colors used and some of the things that come into play later in the deck. Some repeating color themes, but I like that this sort of brings in that directionality and using the wheel as not only, oh, these are just, this wheel goes around and these things happen to me. I would definitely read that into this card, but I would also read into, you know, our free will and our decision making while we are in that wheel energy, that we can have directionality and we can make choices even in that phase of time where we feel like the wheel's just turning and things are just happening to us. Death. Really beautiful, kind of stark, and maybe a little more traditional than some of these cards, only in that it maybe makes sense a little quicker to someone who's only been exposed to, you know, a normal traditional tarot deck, if that makes sense. Though I guess some of the, I mean, you're able to piece together some of this, I'm sure. Yeah. Temperance. Have this beautiful rainbow, pretty clearly have a figure drawn out here, scales up here, and the same kind of bird again, it seems. This one's a little different in color, but I think that's great. We have that little bird there. We have the scales, maybe kind of bringing in some of that justice vibe, which again, the typical majors, you know, there's overlap there, or there are cards that have similarities, of course. I typically see tarot cards as having, you know, I've said before that, you know, there are 78 tarot cards usually. And, well, yeah, tarot, we're going to say 78. But this deck is 52 cards, I believe, by the way. And, you know, there are overlaps and different aspects that are similar between cards. And we, you know, I've said before, there are 78 tarot cards and there might be 78 different facets of each card. So, again, I think this is really cool. Even though the regular majors aren't all there in an order, my deck is awesome because it has what I'm calling a second set of majors, as I mentioned, and because something like this, I would probably read as Justice and Temperance together, or I might pull out whichever one makes sense for the reading that it shows up in, yeah? Anyway, that's my rainbow. The sun. I would probably read that one like I would traditionally. So that's the end of what I'm calling the first major arcana in this deck. Then we have like the normal tarot cards, of which there are 4 here, I believe. Okay, so again, very different structure. And again, this is the way I'm setting it up. I do also have an order in which they were created. That will probably be a different video. We shall see. So in my, you know, my suited cards, we have Wild Wands, which I will probably read like the ace of every suit. Okay, so we don't have cups in here. We don't have swords. We have an arrows card, which I will basically read like a swords card. But this ace of wands, or I'm sorry, this wild wands, I'm reading in my deck as the ace of all the suits. Okay, so when I see this in a reading, I'm going to think ace cups, ace swords, ace pence, and ace wands. Okay, or using one of those based on what other cards show up in the reading. I hope this makes sense. But I'm seeing this as like the seed and potential and the call to action. So a lot of times in a reading with pages or aces, I'll say, okay, these are first steps on a path, right? No matter what that is, there's always that action there, those first steps. And that's how I'm going to read this card as well. And then if the next card that comes up is something like a moon card or water or something like that, then I'm going to talk about emotions in that reading. And I think this will make sense as we go on. Put the beautiful magenta back on that. So then we have 2 arrows of strength, and this I'm going to read as like an arrows card, an air thing, thoughts, communication. We have the scales here again, and what appears to be a feather here in this one. We have the blindfolded figure. It looks a lot like a 2 of Swords card, yeah? So again, I'm going to open this to be a little bit bigger and kind of speak to all of the 2's energy. And again, we'll be using this as the 1 energy. Right, so these have kind of become bigger cards in this deck, and that they will encompass more than just this one thing. Hopefully I'm making sense. My 1 energy and my 2 energy, because the 1 and 2 energy I feel go a really long way. We can talk about action or stillness, taking next steps or waiting, right? All of those kind of repeated things that come up in the tarot, I am going to, sort of distill down into these 2. This will be action. This will be waiting. This will be initiation, and this will be problem solving, right? Things like that. So I'm kind of assigning those things here. Then we have Queen of Earth. Now this is the only court in the deck, okay? The only one that literally says queen or king or anything like that. In this case, she is going to be my queen energy for all, I don't really want to say for all suits, but she's going to be an overarching queen energy, whereas the Queen of Cups may step in and have something to say in a regular reading. This Queen of Earth will take over that role, and again, I will read her based on what things come before or after her in the reading or in a spread that I'm using. But again, not ignoring the earth energy. Again, this kind of green color that we had with the Empress and things like that. Then we have Wands. Now this looks very much like a Queen of Wands card. We can clearly see a figure here. What I'm going to use this as is king energy or crown energy, right? I really love Ari Wisner's keeper in place of the queen and crown in place of the king. And that's immediately what I thought when I started not restructuring, but structuring this deck, right? Putting it in the order that I would use it in terms of a system, which again, I just did before this video. The only way I've used it before is with the cards not being in any kind of structure, if that makes sense. So all the readings I've done prior to today have been, I just throw some things down on the table and see what's there, and I read what's there. Today is the first day I've structured it, and when I was putting these in order, I thought keeper and crown. I hope this is making sense and that you're following along so far. So the life card. Now this is just my first stab at putting what I'm calling the second set of majors into an order. This was a pretty quick, I probably took 2 minutes to do this. So for now, this is my order. If I'm going to assign them numbers mentally, this is just my first stab at it. Okay, so we have life. And there's a beautiful purple over this kind of burgundy color. It's really amazing. There's sort of like a little iridescent sheen to it. Life. Good. Evil. Moon guided light. Constance. Oh, and here we have, I'm sorry, on the back of Moon Guided Light, this is the one that she left white. She left it unpainted except for just a trace amount of that gold stamp that she slides over. And this came to her in her meditation of these cards. This card in particular, Waiting for the Sun, quote by the Doors. Find light even on the dark side of the moon. She rises and she falls. So these were things that came through in her meditation for this card in particular, and so she included those there. Then Constance, with this beautiful magenta back. Tides. so love this. This sort of reminds me of like a zoomed in portion of like a traditional moon card, right? That we're looking at the water piece of that. Night sun. Morning moon. Twin flame. Memento mori. This reminds me of either like a pile of dance costumes or like the underside of like a big tutu or something like that, where we can see all the different layers and colors sort of just like tossed down on a stage. That's what it reminds me of, which is great for B. We're talking like memento mori, remember death, remember me in death. It's a like in memoriam from Victorian times. Yeah, this phrasing, memento mori. Beautiful teal on the back. It's coming up a little lighter on the screen. That's about the real color there. Let me look at the list, because last time I showed this card, I said horse, and I think it's actually house. I want to make sure I'm saying the right thing, and I forgot to look it up, but I don't see it. And I don't want to read out loud and give away. Oh no, it is. It's the house. Before, when I showed this online, like on a live, I said the horse because of like the handwriting here. Again, I love this because now it makes me think of the house and the horse, right? I just think that's amazing. I think it holds so much magic because of the way I read it the first time. But now knowing that it's the house. And I thought that was correct, but I just wanted to look. I really love, I also read Lenormand, as most of you know, and I love the house card. And in numerology, 4 is very much the number of home to me, stability, all those things. And so it just really, I just really love this for kind of like the double meaning that it has for me now because of how I initially perceived it. Also love that it's an eye because I'm really not even into eyes that much in cartomancy and tarot, oracle, anything like that. I'm kind of picky about them, and I so love this. I think it's beautiful, and so yeah, this card's just interesting for many reasons. I love that idea because how she created this as the house, and then showing an I, right? Like the person, like we are the house. We, home is wherever I am. That is a mantra that was given to me by a friend of mine who's a medium years ago. And yeah, there's just a lot wrapped up in this card. I just love that concept. Light. Moon goddess. Beautiful. The way that the paint is on this face, it to me feels like she's crying. So again, I don't know if that's intentional or not, because obviously there's a lot of brushwork on this, and maybe it just happened to smudge that way, but I really love it, to perceive it as though she's crying. Self-forgiveness. Really interesting. We have this sort of like banner, band, or ribbon like that we had in the Lover's card. That same kind of band with the dots on it. And then here we have the blindfold again, this kind of close up of her face. I just really like how all these kind of themes tie together here, because it's bringing in that Lovers vibe and 2 arrows of strength, right, in this deck, in my deck, about that 2 of Swords, that typical rendition, which in this deck is called 2 arrows of strength. We have that, and then we have that call back to the Lovers here too. Faith. Now, some of this sort of reminds me, I believe, and I need to learn more about this. I was just watching a video at Justin Michael on YouTube the other day. He had Marco on again. He's been on a few times, but they were talking about Minchianti decks, which I'm not super familiar with, but I believe that there are elements and zodiacs and some of like the virtues included in the Minchianti decks. Correct me if I'm wrong. I need to look more into it, but I just thought that was so interesting that Jen had included one. It just came from her meditations about creating this deck. So I thought that was really interesting. Beautiful card. The Mirror. This might be my favorite card in this deck. It's hard to name a favorite, but this one really struck me. One of my favorite poems has to do with mirror concepts, and a lot of times the tarot has been noted as a mirror for ourselves to peer into, reflect upon all of these things. So I just love it. It's done so well to the sort of, I don't know what colors are layered underneath, but it really looks like a mirror with that sort of pearl color layered on top. It's just really incredible. Then we go into elements. We have water. And because of this color scheme, it makes me think more of like the unknown depths of water rather than something maybe 100% serene, right? Like I might sometimes view the water element, which is great. I like that this one this orange kind of feels a little more chaotic to me. And it reminds me that water is not just a positive thing, right? That there are some unknown kind of twists and turns when we're talking about water element or the cups as a suit. Earth. So beautiful. I absolutely love this. Looks like wedding decoration, And the back is just so beautiful, even with the pulled off paint. Fire. Air. This one in particular makes me think of James R. Eads, Cosmovisions, any of his decks kind of have this spiraling thing going on in the sky. So this is perfect for air. And spring. This is absolutely gorgeous. Just love it. Again, we have the green coming in from like the Empress and the Earth cards. Summer. Really beautiful. Fall. Just absolutely gorgeous. And this person, I used to work with her actually, so she knows some things about me. We weren't never spending a ton of time together or super best friends or anything like that, but the amount that she knows about me through Lauren and what she knows just from being an acquaintance basically is really amazing. It's just so impressive how she put this together. Lauren did work with her a bit about, a couple things that Lauren really wanted included in this deck for me. But again, I just have to emphasize how the majority of this came through Jen's meditations on these, on this deck, and it just really, the way she created it is just so impressive to me. But along with, you know, this deck being sort of like moon heavy, it's also, you know, she knows I love the fall season. So following this, there's no winter card, okay? So following fall, I put wind because of the fall colors included here. This wind card is one of my favorites in the deck. It's so amazing. And it feels to me like the transition out of fall into winter, right? When the leaves start falling and there's maybe a little rainstorm, and then those last leaves go, and then we're going to transition into winter. So even though there isn't a winter card in this deck, this is what I've put here to then lead us into the months. So we have Janus, or January. February with like this Pisces motif here. March, or Mars, a little planet going on, which I love, right? Because like the language switching over gives that planetary vibe, and then she has a planet here. I don't know, I just think this is amazing. April. May. And I would read these both as timings and as an energy, right? June. Beautiful. July. See like an animal head in here. Looks like a deer to me. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's even supposed to be a person and like hair. I don't know, but I love it. August. This is like the side of someone's face here and hair coming out. Yeah, we have the eye here. You can see that. September, I think is amazing because we have what appear to be scales and a sword, maybe two swords, right? Similar to a justice card. And I forgot until just right now that she numbered this one as 7, it looks like. And I really don't know. I don't know what the implication is there or where that came from. I don't think there's anything in the notes about that. Just another little bit of meditated esoterica. It's just amazing. October. This feels like a moon to me, or several moons even, and then having that reflected in the water. November, again, a person's face. Maybe a book open on a table, I'm not sure. And December. So that is the end of the deck. That is the order that today seems to make sense to me as I'm giving it a structure. Look at that. Oh, amazing. Here's a little flash of the back, how incredible this looks. Oh, I really want to get this out into the world. This video, I mean, I may get brave. I don't know if that's the word, and put something out. Someday you'll probably know why I couldn't put stuff out right now. Definitely not be appearing on a live stream, but maybe it's okay for me to put this video out. I'll think about it. I mean, I will put it out, but I just mean, you know, today rather than 2 months from now, or whenever I'm able to. Sorry for being vague and cryptic, but it's just the way of life right now. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed seeing this beautiful creation that was a sweet gift from my friend Lauren, who had it commissioned for me by Jen Miller. Her site is jenniferjeandesigns.com. But I will have that information included for you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope to be recording something else for you here in the very near future. Thanks again, friends. Until next time, lots of love to you all.